Welcome back to episode 3 of the Halcyon Radio Podcast. My name is Elsie, and I will be your guide to the small, magical town of Halcyon. Let's jump back into the story after the kindest woman, Janice, gave me a room at the inn. I awoke to the sound of autumn wind blowing through the open window. The piano music was lofting from downstairs at almost a whisper in the room now. My eyes heavy, my brain confused at first. It wasn't just a dream. I lay in the fluffy comforter, the most soothing thing I'd experienced in some time. The pillow held my head as though it was a cloud supporting every thought that passed through it. I didn't want to get up. And the moment I realized it, I didn't have to. Work was miles away. My disappointment was left in the city. I was here now, safe, comfortable, supported. And though this was a jarring experience, I felt the relief of so many responsibilities I was painfully juggling, dropping one after another until it all fell to the ground. My phone sat at the end of the table next to the bed. In one impulsive move that felt more right than any decision I had ever made, I sent a text to my landlord saying I wouldn't be coming back. My furniture was going to get repossessed soon, and the rest could be thrown away. I now no longer owned anything except this bag of things a perfect stranger had given me. I was free. I noticed it was 10 a.m., well past when I usually woke up, but I wanted more. I felt it in my bones. I needed more. This bed, I didn't want to escape. I laid my head down again on this pillowy cloud and felt my eyes grow heavy, my mind wandering. Through the window, I could hear the gentle patter of more raindrops falling onto the roof like nature's lullaby. I dreamt of an ice cream cone in my hand while I sat on a sandy, hot beach under an umbrella, a strange contrast to the autumn air drifting through my window. An orange cat walked by wearing sunglasses while giving me a thumbs up. Another cat, black and white with bright green eyes, sat next to me on a chair, asleep, only to pick his head up to stretch into a more comfortable position. It lasted hours. I never had a dream last so long, but I just sat there on this beach, my toes warm in the sand, the ice cream never ending, my stomach happy as ever, never hurting from the endless lactose. I awoke again. This time my stomach was growling. It was noon now. This was a scandal to me. I had never, even in my teenage high school years, slept this late. I was always told, what successful person sleeps in? Seize the day. I felt lazy, but my body argued otherwise. The tension that once consumed me had slipped away like morning frost melting in sunlight. My neck was free from the tightness that wrenched my head into restless aches. I sat up in bed and stretched, fighting with my inner thoughts that were yelling at me to get up, go do something, go thank that woman again, go work your butt off to pay off your debt. But my body was slow. The stretching invoked a large, elongated yawn. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, with my arms overhead reaching. Once on my feet, the weight of my body felt as though I had added another 100 pounds. I dragged my feet to the bathroom and got dressed with the pace of a sloth. I couldn't move any faster, no matter how much my brain raged. I just couldn't. I washed my face, the coolness of the water waking me up more. I opened the door and headed down the spiral stairs. my hand trailing along the banister past those small pumpkins I noticed the night before. The smell of something sweet and doughy got me moving, something warm and spiced, like cinnamon and nutmeg dancing in the air. My stomach was now in agony, especially with such a smell wreaking havoc on me. But still, my feet moved down each step with careful pace as I held onto the ledge as though I could fall at any minute. It was as though my body had taken over. My brain no longer had access. As I got to the bottom of the stairs, I began to get embarrassed and my thoughts started to race. Was I supposed to be here? What would I tell that sweet woman I met last night? Sorry I slept until noon and haven't been able to begin to work out an agreement on how I'm going to pay you back for a night in such a luxurious room. Janice popped her head up from behind the desk, looking as sleepy as she did last night. Her cardigan today was the color of burnt orange. I'm glad you're awake, dear. You must have needed some rest. This inn can be very accommodating for people who need some rest. I began speaking as thoughts raced through my head about how to explain myself, how to explain sleeping until noon, what happened and how I got here. I'm so sorry I got here late last night and that I slept so late. I know we didn't have an agreement on how I was supposed to pay you back. I can get to work right away. Anything you need. Janice chuckled and slowly stood up. Most folks here in Halcyon don't tend to move very quickly or worry about such things as sleeping in. But you are correct. I could use some help in the kitchen. Follow me. Janice shuffled through the archways of a hall leading to the kitchen. The walls were lined with original paintings of laughing children, bowls of autumn harvest fruit, and late season flowers. The wood floor had a nice creak to it, softened by intricate rugs thrown over it in warm, earthy tones. The smell of dough rising, sweet and yeasty, with hints of pumpkin spice, slapped me in the face as Janice opened the swinging door to the kitchen. In it was a human-sized robot with a silver exterior and a kind but robotic face. Flour was dusted among its arms and shoulders while it wore a chef's hat, an apron decorated with tiny acorns. He was humming an undetectable tune. Janice stood in front of a large island in the kitchen, where a bowl of freshly picked apples sat waiting to be turned into something magical. Here is my robot. I call him Basil. He can be a little neurotic, but he's somewhat helpful, I suppose. The robot looked at me. Nice to meet you, young lady, he said in a smooth tone. Hi, Basil. I'm Elsie. Janice began explaining that she cooked breakfast and dinner at the inn every day, and she was beginning to slow down and needed some extra help. A neighbor of hers offered Basil to her as a helping hand, but Janice felt as though the robot created food that was too precise, lacking a personal touch, a personality. So it was her rule that Basil could help, but he was not to make meals himself. So in came me. I would be cooking. I began explaining, "Oh, Janice, I do want to help, but cooking isn't really my thing. Really, let me fold laundry, make beds, anything else." Janice kept explaining. "There will be baking also. Lots of baking. You'll get the hang of it. Just ask old Basil here for the recipes. He'll keep you on top of things. Dinner is at 6, so you'll have plenty of time to get started. Tonight, we're making butternut squash soup and apple cinnamon bread." I began to sweat, my hands in particular. My mind began to race again with fleeting thoughts. How could I do this? This wasn't my thing. I'd only ever been able to make ramen, maybe spaghetti, if I bought the sauce in a jar. Never this. I didn't know the first thing. I started talking again. Janice, I cannot thank you enough for all your help last night with the bag, everything, but I can't do this. Janice had a twinkle in her eye and smiled for a moment. I insist, she said as she patted me on the shoulder and shuffled out of the room, leaving behind the faint scent of vanilla and spices that seemed to follow her everywhere. Basil looked at me with what I perceived as concern. With Janice out of the room and only a robot to talk to, my thoughts started becoming words out of my mouth. I can't do this. I can't. Why would she do this? I've never cooked or baked. I tried to bake bread once and it was horrible. Why would she want me in charge of something like this? Something I could so desperately mess up and make any other guest mad. Why? I said as I became breathless. Basil, in his kind voice, began, Elsie, do not worry. I know this is an overwhelming task, but I'm here to assist. I do know the recipes. I've done them all before, and I'm sure you'll add so much personality. I can already tell. He gestured to a hook on the wall where several aprons hung, including one embroidered with tiny pumpkins and the words Autumn Magic stitched in golden thread. And he said, Here, put on an apron. Thank you for listening to the Halcyon Radio Podcast. Please join me for the next chapter.